This is not something that farmers can work around. No one anticipated that we would have a shock to the system. All the experts did not see this coming when we received this rise in fertilizer prices because of this war.
Nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody thought that electing Donald Trump to go on a revenge path and do whatever he wants completely unchecked would lead to this. Nobody said anything. Kamala Harris didn't say anything. The people on social media, the liberals, the Democrats, the sensible independents, anybody with more than 2 brain cells didn't see this coming. We all saw this coming. We knew there was going to be a war. We knew there was going to be a conflict. We knew that his idea for tariffs was terrible. We knew that mass deportations was terrible. We knew that everything he was bringing to the table, all of his, well, I haven't thought about that, half-baked plans were terrible. So don't sit here now and say nobody saw this coming, shock to the system out of nowhere. No, he started this war with Iran single-handedly, and we knew he would do something exactly like it. So these farmers want to continue to tell us, we didn't know, we're in pain, all these big farmers are getting the subsidies and the bailouts, we're suffering, we're going to close our family farm. You fucked around and now you're finding out. I don't know what else to say.
When I saw the new fertilizer price, I'm like, holy crap. Talk about a kick to the gut.
Spring is here, which means it's planting season in Iowa. For corn farmers preparing to sow their fields, the war with Iran couldn't have come at a worse time.
So this is the fertilizer.
Right.
So how much did the price of it go up after the war in Iran erupted?
It went up about $250 a ton in my neck of the woods.
Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a critical transit point for a third of the world's fertilizer, sent the price soaring. The cost of 2 widely used nitrogen fertilizers shot up by 20 and 50% in the first few weeks of the war. A decade of inflation, low commodity prices, and tariffs have squeezed Jolene Reeson's profit margins. She's now facing her toughest year yet as a farmer.
You know, every year's a risk when you farm, but this has kind of been compounding. You know, our prices have been low, and yet our input costs continue to ratchet up.
With the price of fertilizer already higher than last year, she put off buying until last month, hoping the price would go down. Then the war started, and the opposite happened. With the window to plant closing, she had little choice but to buy at a high price.
For the amount of fertilizer I was going to buy, it had gone up about $13,000 in 2 days. What pot does that come out of? You know, fertilizer price, we can't control. Fuel price, we can't control. Where is it all going to end up? We don't know.
This is like the worst I've ever seen it, gambling what our futures are going to look like.
Farmer Lance Lillibridge has been representing Iowa corn growers for 14 years.
The current conflict in Iran is hurting farmers everywhere in Iowa and across the country. If we're not able to sustain our land with the nutrients that's needed to grow a crop, then our yields are going to go down, eventually going to drive up the price of corn, which is what we use to feed chickens, pigs, and cattle, amongst other things. And eventually that is going to go back to the consumer at the grocery store.
MAGA farmers voted for Trump, believing that he was a good businessman, but it seems they voted for their own demise. From the tariffs, are losing workers. Now they are dealing with rising fertilizer costs, higher fuel prices, shrinking profits, pushing them deeper into crisis. So let's have a look.
Hey, it's Joe from Georgia. Well, American farmers, they're at the center of problems again. With the price of diesel fuel skyrocketing as well as the cost of fertilizers, American family farms are disappearing at a faster rate than ever. These farmers are having to pay more money for diesel, for their fertilizer, and the operation of their farms, and they were just recovering from what tariffs did to their commodities in the last year. So if you want to buy any farmland property, it's tons of it for sale because you've got generations of farmers who are losing the family farm. And a lot of them are just hanging it up. They want to sell and they want to leave farming. And this is being centered right in the center of the country. You know, the Rust Belt in Iowa, in the plains there. You've got more acreage available right now from family farms for sale because of what's happening with the war in Iran. So the president continues to stick it to the farmer.
And this is why voting matters. The farmers are just taking another hit. So if it's not the tariff wars, it's now the war in Iran. So farmers are now happening to have to deal not only with the price of gas going up because their equipment runs on diesel, they also have to deal with the fertilizer shortage. So let's talk about the diesel first. So because of the war in Iran, oil and liquid natural gas are trapped in the Strait of Hormuz, right? So global oil prices are going up. We all know this. So farmers are paying way more just to fuel up their equipment than they normally would. But the problem with farmers is that they have to sell their goods to big companies, okay? We allow these monopolies to take place. Farmers don't have too many options, and the big companies will not pay more for the goods the farmers are selling them. So the farmers have to eat that cost of diesel. So they have to make less money because the diesel has gone up. But now with the Strait of Hormuz being closed, fertilizer is an issue. If y'all don't know, the bulk of our fertilizer in the United States comes from Canada. But it's just the bulk. It's not all of it. The rest of it comes from the Middle East. A lot of it goes through the Strait of Hormuz. And the fact that the strait is currently closed means that there is a shortage on fertilizer now. So the demand for fertilizer is the same, but there's less product on the market, which means the fertilizer prices are going up. So now farmers have to eat that price as well, because again, they can't charge more because we allowed monopolies in the United States. So the farmers don't have options. There's no competition. So they can't raise their prices, or the big companies just won't buy from them and they won't have anyone to sell to. So now the farmers yet again are catching it. And this is why you need to be surrounded by a diverse collection of people with varying backgrounds and understandings and expertise, so you ensure that your actions as a politician don't affect people or the nation in a negative. Okay. But here we are. A lot of people got fired when Trump took office, and the people that replaced a lot of the experts that were there are not the highest level experts in the field. They don't have all of the business experience. They just don't. So here we are again. And please remember, with diesel costs going up, even though the big companies won't give the farmers more money for the product, they're going to charge more for it because they have to ship it. So when Walmart says we want some produce, Walmart now has to pay more, but Walmart's not really going to pay more. They're going to make us pay more when we go to buy that food. So this is what happens when you don't have experts on your team helping you make decisions that can affect your economic growth. Y'all have a good day.
Damn, farmers are going through it.
New survey data from the American Farm Bureau Federation shows nearly 60% of U.S. farmers say their finances are getting worse just as spring planting season ramps up. Now, fourth-generation farmer Lorenda Overman telling me fertilizer and nitrogen costs on her North Carolina farm jumped from $139 per acre last year to $217 an acre this season. Now, the pain isn't evenly spread. Southern farmers are getting hit harder. Just 19% locked in fertilizer early, and now nearly 80% say they can't afford what they need. Overman says last year's harvest let little cash and pre-buy, and they're more
Fertilizer's up 40%. Tariffs have hurt farmers. Gas prices, specifically diesel, is really hurting farmers. The trade war, we already had to bail out farmers, ladies and gentlemen, $12 billion. And that didn't even help them because they would have sold more if we didn't have a trade war. Countries are not going to be buying from us, not just soybeans, but many other items. They've already started to move on and trade with other countries. What this showed them is that every 4 years, a crazy president can come in office and wreck their economy. The Iran war is hurting farmers. They are really going through it. And guess what? A lot of them voted for him 3 times, and a lot of them still support Donald Trump. Farm bankruptcy is skyrocketing. Farmer suicide. They're really going through it.
Oh,
fuck? Is this why this is happening? Is this one reason why this is happening? So for those who don't know, it's not just oil that comes out of the Strait of Hormuz, okay? It's fertilizer. And right now is the time that crops are being planted. War with Iran disrupts fertilizer exports as U.S. farmers prepare for planting season. But that had me fucked up a little bit when I saw something. What if that is the whole fucking plan? What if that is the whole fucking plan? We have heard everybody on the Trump side and Elon and shit talking about data centers. Well, if you take fertilizer away from farmers and they can't plant crops that are actual crops and or to feed the livestock and they belly up, are they just going to give up their land and they're going to get data centers for them? Oh, fuck. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm fucking wrong. Because whether you like to admit it or not, the ballroom is not a ballroom. That's 90,000 square feet and bunkers underneath it. This shit is a fucking data center. He's gonna bankrupt farmers or make them pay such high prices that they can't afford it. They're gonna have to give up their fucking farms or sell it for pennies on the dollar. Acre trader, JD Vance. Holy fucking shit. What if this is the fucking plan? Oh my God. Is anybody else seeing that? Is anybody else seeing this shit? That this is because of this. Oh no!
This is a harsh lesson in consequences. For years, many rural voters were told tariffs would punish foreign countries and bring back wealth. They were told deportations would protect American workers without harming business, and they were told that aggressive politics would create economic success. But reality does not work like campaign slogans. Farmers depend on three major things: labor, stable markets, and affordable inputs. When all three are damaged at once, the pressure becomes unbearable. First is the labor shortages. Agriculture in the United States has long depended on immigrant labor. Fruits must be picked on time. Dairy farms need workers every day. Livestock operations need constant labor. So when crackdowns remove workers and create fear, farms struggle to fill positions. Some crops rot in the fields. Some farms cut production. Others shut down entirely. Second is trade wars. Farmers need export markets, especially things like soybeans, corn, wheat, pork, and others. When tariffs trigger retaliation, foreign buyers look elsewhere, to Brazil, Argentina, Canada, or Europe. And once buyers build new supply chains, winning them back is difficult. That is a rising cost. Fertilizer prices, fuel prices, machinery cost, transport cost, all these squeeze farmers from every direction. Now with the conflict in Iran, which disrupts major shipping lanes and fertilizer supply routes, the effects ripple worldwide. Farmers pay more to grow food. Truckers pay more to move food. Stores pay more to stock food. And consumers pay more to buy food. Higher grocery bills hurt working families first. Everyday necessities becomes harder to afford. Restaurants raise prices. School meal budgets get strained. Food banks face greater demand. Inflation becomes more a weekly struggle. This is why policy matters. It's easy to cheer slogans at rallies, but it's harder to face the economic chain reaction afterward. This moment should be a wake-up call. Voters everywhere must look beyond slogans and ask tougher questions. Who benefits from these policies? Who bears the cost? What happens 3 years later, not just 3 days after the rally? Because too often, ordinary people are sold anger while the elites collect profit. So thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next video.